I made a video about a couple of videos back, and it was about Chris Eubank and Conor Benn when they were on Piers Morgan. And I talked about how I felt Chris Eubank was a fraud in his argument that drug cheats shouldn't be allowed in the sport. We're talking about the health and safety of fighters, and it's a dangerous sport as it is, and fighters using performance enhancing drugs, there's no excuse. He talked about Nick Blackwell, and the fucking terrible roads again. The general gist of it was the fact that he was only fighting Conor Benn to teach him a lesson. Drug cheats shouldn't be allowed in the sport is dangerous. But nonetheless, he was going to teach him a lesson, but that was the only reason. Now, my argument was, if you don't want drug cheats in the sport, and we're going to talk about how dangerous it is, and how at risk you put fighters fighting against someone on performance enhancing drugs, I thought it was just a fraudulent thing to say that you care about the sport, you care about fighters, you care about injuries, you care about brain injuries, and yet you're actively giving Conor Benn his biggest payday to date by a mile. For someone who doesn't want drug cheats in the sport, for someone who talks about safety, you're actively giving him his biggest payday. And from this, Conor Benn will go on to carry on to box, earn more money. And if you believe he's a drug cheat, you're actively helping him in his career. And you could say you're actively sending a message to drug cheats that there is redemption. This is if you believe Conor Benn is a drug cheat that he's made out to be. And we have not had the proof yet. We have not had the scientific evidence that it was no fault of his that they were in his system. But if that's your stance, I find it hypocritical to say, as I said in that video, that you're worried about safety, you're worried about the sport, but I'll fight him anyway. And I don't mind him getting the biggest payday of his career, but I'm only doing it to teach him a lesson. So it's nothing to do with the money. Now, on Ariel Helwani's show, I watched this morning, he was saying many of the same things. Ariel Helwani put to him, out of interest, are there any rematch clauses for this fight? I made a video at the weekend saying that how if you were a fighter, you know, and a lot of the arguments are, well, rematch clauses hold up negotiations, hold up the divisions, and they do. But if I'm a fighter, I don't really give a fuck about holding up the division, holding up negotiations, if it means me getting a rematch clause in place. Common sense to me. That's just the way the world is, unfortunately. But he was asked if there was a rematch clause in place. Chris was. To which Chris said, yeah, there is. So then Ariel Helwani said, so there's a high probability, the chances are, you'll fight each other twice. Yeah. So Chris, if it was just about teaching him a lesson, if you fight him the first time, beat him convincingly, you've taught him a lesson. That should be the end for the drug cheat. Look at what happens to drug cheats. And just everybody, I'm only doing this just to teach him a lesson and to show the world that drug cheats never prosper. But you've signed for a rematch clause, which means if that happens, you've taught him a lesson. That should be done. On principle, on your own morality that you're spouting, that should be the end of it. But no, you signed a rematch clause, which means win, lose or draw, the rematch will possibly be more money than the first fight, depending on how the first fight finishes. And you lapped that up as well. You lapped up another opportunity to put to the side any concerns you had about drug cheats and the well-being of the sport and the safety of fighters going forward for another big fucking bag. So to me, this is just another example of Chris Eubank's fraudulentness, his hypocrisy, and the fact that he's just interested in the money and himself. So Chris, unfortunately, I think you're a fraud.